What is up, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning in to episode 270 of Expert Mentors Live. And I'm really excited for today's session. Spence shared this presentation with the room at Kitchen Table when we did Kitchen Table back in June in Pittsburgh. And I was like, man, I need to give you a little more time and let you kind of walk through this a little bit because honestly, what I'm seeing in the real estate space right now, agents that focus and are committed and consistent with social media are having some of the best momentum out of any agents out there, right? And you look at Hermosi, the core four, social media is one of the core four components. And it's working extremely well for a lot of agents. And so being able to, really understand it and unpack it like you were able to share with the room, I thought, man, this is just a perfect, opportunity to walk through with the agents in the Honey Badger Nation and really, and truly embodies what Expert Mentors is truly all about.
Yeah, I think there's been this bit of a divergence the past couple of years where you've got sort of that old school mentality, which still works, where it's like going out door knocking, cold calling, online leads. This is all still great stuff. But I think we've seen over the last couple of years more of, I guess, a seriousness being taken with regards to the social media, because over time we're seeing that it's actually working. Right.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty cool to watch sort of unfold. And now I've, started implementing it into my business strategy with regards to lead generation. And it's working. It's awesome. Right.
It's so good. And I mean, I think there's a standard benchmark that has to be in play as everybody's kind of up their game when it comes to social, but understanding, the framework and the principles behind it, being able to stay consistent with and understand, hey, what are a couple buckets that I can focus on, that I can commit to where I can maintain that consistency. I think that's where a lot of agents get hung up. Including myself, right? It's like, I need themes, I need topics, I need to get out ahead of it. I need to think about it and plan it instead of, if I'm dependent upon thinking of it on the fly, that puts me sometimes in a tough situation, especially when I'm not in a creative space to be able to do that. So I think kind of the framework and what I'm excited for you to share allows folks to be a little more intentional with their social media content and strategy moving into the future.
Yeah, that's a great word. And that's exactly what I was going to steer in the direction of. This isn't necessarily about like, how do I create content or what are the ideas for the content? It's more or less using these platforms as tools and being intentional with your time on them. Because let's be honest, it's very easy to get very distracted in these platforms, right? They're built to grab your attention, to hold you there, to keep you on the platform. And it's very easy. And we can all, we can all say that we've done it, where you just kind of get into this doom scroll, right? And, 10, 15 minutes goes by. You don't even know why you went on there. You came into the Instagram platform to find somebody, but as soon as you hopped in, something grabbed your attention. Next thing you know, you're scrolling and you can't even remember what you were looking for in the first place. Right. So the big thing is to try to just remain intentional with your time that you put into the social media to help promote your business and leverage your brand and everything else. And that's the big thing too, right? It's just kind of having a structure around posts. And this is sort of what we're going to talk about next, which is really helping kind of propel business and then also help agents find local leads that are within their marketplace. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? Because you can have, tens of thousands of followers, or you can have a video that's got, you can have an iced coffee video that's got 5 million views because it went viral, but like, did you gain any leads from it? No, it's just the internet, giving numbers out there, which is great. It looks good, it feels good, but like, you want to deal with people within your local marketplace that you can eventually meet and buy and sell with, right? That's the ultimate goal here.
Yeah, 100%. It's got to, there's got to be some business metrics tied to it as well. Or I just don't believe you're going to stay consistent with it long enough to from a business dynamic, right? If you can't or understand what business metrics you're able to tie to social, which is absolutely important.
Mm-hmm. I think also too, with regards to results, will help you stay consistent, right? And it's sort of that little feedback loop, right? Like when you do see a positive outcome for something that you put so much work and energy into, kind of gives you that motivation to do it again, right? It's
Yeah.
very good positive
Yeah.
feedback loop, right? So when I circle back to trying to get hyper local, right? Like, I feel like social media and everything is a macro affair, right? It can be very big and out there into the world, but we want to try to get more micro in our own marketplaces with finding lead sources. So you can, run into people at coffee shops that already follow you on social media who eventually will do business with you. And that's the big reward here, right?
Yeah. So absolutely. So, Spence, this is like I said, I loved the presentation at Kitchen Table and, wanted to get you here into Expert Mentors. And you're like, well, what am I going to talk about? I was like, just unpack what you shared at KT. And so let's dive in. If you want to go ahead and share your screen, we can, sure. Looks like we got to reshare it. So if you want to reshare it, then I can throw it up for us. And I'll let you dive right into the content and really being able to go through it. And what's really cool too is that just being able to see what you've been able to do with your business and how much of an impact, like you said, that this is really having. I mean, it's just like, this isn't just theory or, hey, somebody else is doing this is a great idea. It's like, no, this is actual tangible, results coming from this. And I think that's why, having this as one of a key lever in your business is absolutely critical.
All right. So I'll give you guys just a quick little breakdown or background on who I am. I got into real estate through construction and trades. So, coming out of high school, I love working with my hands, and I got very quickly involved with different trades work around the residential construction process. And I found that I would get bored very easily. So I would learn a job or something that I was doing. And then, essentially once I felt I had it nailed, I would kind of want to move on to the next thing. So typically once a year, I would switch up my job. I went from roofing to framing to doing all kinds of different things. Ultimately, it all kept me within the residential home construction. And, real estate, once I was ready to kind of transition out of that for good, real estate was a natural fit. And that brought me into, it just kind of made a lot of sense. These backgrounds blend well, right? And once I got into real estate, it was the same kind of question that we all face, right? So when you get started, where does business come from? Like, how does it work, right? So for me, ultimately, what happened was my timing wasn't the best. I passed my last exam to start, with a brokerage the day before we went into lockdowns. And if you remember, right, lockdowns in Canada were pretty strict, right? They were super severe. You couldn't go out, you couldn't do anything. And it really kind of put me into a situation where, I wasn't able to actively do as much, I guess you could say, traditional lead generation as you would. Like for example, here, the first year that I was in real estate, you couldn't even do open houses, right? It was just a no-no with COVID and stuff like that. But, through that first year, I did roughly 7 deals. And I had an average sales price of about $600K. And through that, we also had a lot of lockdowns for the rest of that year, where I also did 4 elective courses. I studied my broker designation so I could write my broker license. And, I just stayed busy, right? Now, all of that kind of propelled me into my second year, where I ICON by GCI, and I had an average sale price of 1.4 million by the end of that second year. Now I remember now I did 1 or 2 deals through social media, but I hadn't really figured it out yet. A majority of my business was coming from, calling online leads, door knocking. And in the second year, you could do open houses and stuff like that. So I want to say the more traditional approach to real estate and how we're supposed to do business, right? The thing that really, really wore me out by the end of that second year was the constant sell of myself. Every single person that came in that I met this way, whether it was cold calling or door knocking or open houses, it was like, a reset of like, I'm a great realtor and these are the reasons why and all that sort of stuff. And it wasn't warm, right? I mean, sure, right, you can do some business through, your sphere of influence and stuff like that, which I did as well. But also it was just a lot of like new business. It was a constant sell, right? And that's what really kind of made me wonder, what else is there? Fast forward to just last year, I met Sean Getty, and he's a local agent, or sorry, he's an agent that's Canadian, based out of Alberta. And I will always say, and I've been told this right from day one, is you should be going to events. You got to be putting yourself into rooms with people who are paying money to go somewhere far away. If they can afford to do that and they can share some knowledge, it's just a really positive experience. So we were actually in Vegas at EXPCon. And I remember we were at the Mandalay Bay where the conference was hosted, and I was just standing by the elevators. It was like, the end of a day, just before sort of dinner time. Didn't really have any plans, and I was just kind of waiting to run into somebody or see what could come up. Super busy spot, and I look over and I see Sean, and we lock eyes, and he came over. He's like, "Hey, you're that Canadian, you're in Ontario, right?" So yeah, we started chatting, and I knew a little bit about Sean. I'd heard about him and some of his success that he had in the business. And he said, "Hey man, listen, we've got probably about 8 to 12 people that are going to be coming up to the suite." He's like, "I'd love for you to join us. We're going to be doing a breakdown on the social media blitz that I put into my business. That's propelled me from 200 followers on Instagram to over 8,000, and I did over 186 deals, in my third year just through social media." And I thought, wow, okay, yeah, I had a little taste of that from my previous year, and a majority of the business though was through the traditional sense. And I thought, okay, there's something here. This guy's figured out a framework. And this is why I'll preach, you got to go to events, right? This opportunity never would have happened if I stayed at home. Right. So yeah, absolutely. Bring me up there. Let's go. And essentially, he broke down what I'm about to tell you guys. And it was like, all right, proof is done. This is the framework. Let's try to implement this into your business, sort of see what happens next. Right. So you've got like a content strategy that'll work across these platforms. My main focus for me is just Instagram. I primarily, I think I just understand that platform better for myself. I enjoy being on it more than Facebook and TikTok and stuff like that. But the essence of this will work across those platforms. Right. So they each have a story, they each have a feed in your profile. Right. So Instagram stories, essentially what we're going to do is we're going to break down sort of the reason when you get drawn to somebody's profile, right? Maybe you saw them in the For You page, or maybe they popped up on your feed, or a friend shared some of their one of their posts. What'll end up happening is you get drawn to their page. And I've noticed this is once you get to their page, you see that little circle is kind of lit up, and there's a story there, but there's almost a little bit of FOMO that's involved at that period of time, because that story is going to be deleted in 24 hours and you don't know when they posted it. So, I mean, technically you could delete right now, right? So you kind of edge yourself into going in there to see what it's all about. So if you have an active story, that's great to bring people, keep them on your profile for longer than they would have otherwise stayed. And that's a good point, right? So you get people that come in, and what'll happen is they jump into your story, and then they kind of see what you're about. And this is typically what people do, is they jump into the stories, see what you're about. And then if they're intrigued, they stay down and they check out your profile, your page, right? So we kind of broke this down. Portuguese word for film is film with an E. Just help me kind of remember the structure of this. It's not overly complicated, but it's essentially what you want to be trying to do is connect with people on a level, right? So you can share, photos of your family, videos of your family, or, your furry friends, dogs, cats, whatever that is. Somebody comes to your profile, they see you have a cat, they have cats, right? This is a connection. Inspiration, motivation. I love reading motivational quotes. It gives me a little bit of a boost. I find a good one, I post it to my story because I'm hoping maybe somebody else that's, struggling that day sees it and feels the same way too. Lifestyle, hobbies. This is like super important to get personal with. So, what are your interests, right? First and foremost, post what you're into. Are you into running? Are you into cycling? Like, are these things that you spend your time doing? If so, then post about it, because what you want to ultimately do is find those people that are coming across your page that can relate to that, right? And if they're not into cycling, maybe they had a really bad experience with a cycler. Well, odds are pretty good you don't want to connect with them anyway. So let's just get that out of here, right? They're not going to be a great person to work with down the line, right? If they don't like cyclers. And then ultimately, memes, sometimes you see the odd funny meme you can post, get people chuckling. You can also do the exact same thing with the fitness and the hobbies, is posting a meme that like you think is funny, right? Or if you've got a dark humor, well, here's your time to shine, right? And you can post these dark humor memes that like might steer people away from you that don't associate with that. But that's good, right? Weed them out before they actually come in, and you get super involved with them, right? So, and then obviously an easy one everybody eats a few times a day is just post some food, right? So that's sort of to keep the Instagram stories going, or the social media content stories going. And then the feed itself, right? You can post some of that stuff some of the time, but you really want to be focusing on like the value base of the feed, right? So once people come in, they relate that you're into running. They love that quote, the motivational quote that you posted, and they see you got a dog. All right, well, like I want to learn more about this person. They go down to your profile, and then they can start to see like what you're about, right? Like, are you a mortgage broker? Are you a real estate broker? Are you posting just listed, just sold? Are you posting the story behind that just sold? Right? Is it interesting? This is the sort of stuff that's going to keep people coming into your feed further and then staying on it for longer, which is good for obviously the algorithm too, right? And it helps people kind of get to know you a little bit better as well. So yeah, the building the connections through the community, this is essentially that, right? So the big thing here is to try to get people to your page. You want people to kind of hang around and check you out. And in doing that, you want to be offering that value. So the interact and the follow back section of this, right? Like when you do get new followers, you want to, I don't aimlessly personally follow back everybody. Sometimes I miss followers and then I see, they've been liking stuff and I go to their profile and I'm like, oh, I got to follow back this person. It's a good connection. But ultimately, if it's a fake account or something like that, they're pretty obvious. You can see them when they come in. Personally, if I see a fake account come in, I let it unfollow me, so you can force out followers that are following you, just because I don't want it to sort of mess with the algorithm. And then obviously, as we mentioned this before, is being consistent. So just over time, continually posting as this kind of rolls, you're going to see more of a following or more of a gaining. But we want to make it specific.
Yeah. We'll follow back. Go back real quick here. And I think, how to use each of kind of the attention pieces, right? Like you talked about, like, using the film with basically what you're saying in those stories, right? To be able to really create that, let me bite size check this out. And if I have that connection, then let me dive in and see what this person's about, right? Really, who are they, right? So think about behavior. And I think, for you as an agent, what is a buying behavior, right? If you've bought anything off of Instagram, bought anything off of Facebook, bought anything, online, like what's the process that you go through? Or somebody, reaches out to you, what's the process you go through? So you think about, like, even in traditional forms of other big ticket media. So for like example, the process that we always talk about with like billboards and how you get billboards to work for you in your marketplace is that you got to have less on the billboard and you got to have your name in there, because as people are driving by the billboard, they see your image, they see whatever direct call to action, whatever it is, and then they see a name. What are they going to do? They're not going to remember, everything. They're going to remember your name, and then they're going to go, what are they going to do? They're going to Google you. So there's that behavior that people go through. So I think kind of where you're talking about here with utilizing social is the stories is the bite size, but what's the behavior? What are they going to do next? And then, like you said, value. Now, when you mean value in the feed, is it value around what you do? Is it more of still of the film aspect of more value there? Is it like where like what do you mean by value in the feed?
Yeah. So I was actually thinking about this a little bit earlier too, with regards to the film section, right? Like, I think the big thing for what I'm noticing is trying to get, again, more hyper local. So going micro instead of macro with the Instagram or the social media in your marketplace, right? So say, for example, like you're really into running, right? And you've got like, a half marathon or a full marathon that you've just ran, right? Posting that on your feed could help you in terms of connecting with somebody as well, because that's permanent, that's within there. But for the most part, and like value could be based off of like, what do people enjoy too, right? So for me personally, I enjoy watching, really cool styled home tours, right? So that's what we're working on replicating. We've got a lot of positive feedback. So, people could come to the page and they could veg out on a couple of home tours, right? Because they find that interesting, or to see homes filmed in that particular way, right? Which is super cool. Or it could be, like I said, more news outlet oriented focused, right? So maybe that's what you're really into, right? You follow, news closely, and you want to kind of recycle and repurpose those, that message, so viewers or followers can come in and you kind of know what to expect next or see it, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
cool. Yeah, I think it, story, telling a story almost, right? Being able to go through that and then, just value knowing that it's going to be there unless you go delete it. It's going to be there and it's got some more, it's going to have some more shelf life than kind of, going through in the story aspect of it.
I think like also too, because you mentioned Hermosi, like I think almost like looking at your page and your stories as being sort of the hook, right? Like what's the hook of you, right? And what you're into and what you're interested in. And that'll keep people kind of going down and funneling into what's the value proposition for what you're trying to
That's a
offer or sell
great
or
way to
whatever,
put it. Yeah,
right?
that's a great way to
It's
put
sort
it.
of,
So that
yeah.
goes back to Brunson, right? What he teaches at ClickFunnels, hook, story, offer. So I
Yeah.
like the way to think about that. That's a really, really good distinction. Is
Mhm.
that your stories are just the hooks, and then getting into your feed is story, right? And then within that story, it gives you an opportunity to make an offer.
Mhm.
And we can maybe touch on that in a little bit as well, because I think that's possibly one of the things that I see with a lot of agents is they're afraid to make an offer to somebody, asking them or a call to action, or, telling them to do something. So we'll unpack that in just a second, but, dive in here to kind of your post engagement routine.
Yeah. So this is again funneling into the purpose section of this. Or what I discovered in that room prior to is like I didn't have really a structure or a strategy behind the social media. It was more or less just you post something and then you kind of go on and you scroll. And if something, if somebody messages you or if it happens, right? It's more organic than anything. But this structure is what I found really kind of helps get micro, again, going from macro to micro into a certain marketplace or area. So essentially what you want to be thinking about is when you do create a post, whether it's a reel or whatever, say, for example, you've got a just listed home in a certain marketplace, right? So maybe you've got a bigger city, you've got a tiny little community just outside of that city where you've got a new listing, right? So you go ahead, you create your post, you post it. What you want to do is you want to spend 15 minutes essentially. So you want to take 60 minutes of intentional time on your social media after that post. Take 15 minutes to do geotagging. So, and then 15 minutes for local business engagement, 15 minutes for story interaction, 15 minutes for feed engagement. So you basically break it down. And then, like I said, it's that hour period where you're just hyper focused on what do I need to do next? And essentially what you're kind of doing is you're just stamping your profile in all of these different areas to try to drive more traffic back to your page, essentially. Right. So let's circle back to that listing that you just posted in that smaller town just outside of the city. Maybe in that specific area, they're known for hiking, or maybe it's cycling or something like that, right? That there's good trails, hiking, walking trails, or biking trails. That's something that you can kind of hone into, right? So the geotag you can put on your post, and you can circle through there to find that area. People are going to be posting all kinds of stuff, obviously, that's in that specific area. So you want to go in and start liking and commenting thoughtfully on those posts that are already happening in that spot. And then also too, for example, like, if that area, like Instagram now, I know, in Facebook, they let you search. So the geotag, you can just physically search for it now, and you can actually funnel through reels, you can funnel through accounts, you can funnel through different areas. So you can kind of go in and you can do almost like I don't want to say a tag search because it's not so popular anymore, but you can kind of get hyper local for that specific thing and then go ahead and drive traffic. So if somebody posted, say, for example, or is in that area, for example, and they posted something that's similar to what you just posted, they're going to actually be able to funnel through. If you like their photo, it'll bring you to their page. Like you'll pop up in their notifications, for example, to bring them in, which is awesome. The next one is business engagement. So I like this one because if, say, for example, that small town has a coffee shop, for example, odds are pretty good that a lot of local people in that area are going to follow that page, right? So they want to see if there's any upcoming events or if they're doing sales or stuff like that. But like the more people that are in that, local community are more than likely going to follow that page, which is awesome. So you can go in there. You obviously want to follow that page as well. So you can see when they make posts, you want to like those posts. But for this section, you want to be going into their followers. So the people that are following that business page. And then actually what I do is I go in and I physically click through the profiles, right? And you tend to find people that are, like I said, active in the community in that area, and their profiles are open. You go in, you like one of their photos. What this does is it sends them a notification, and essentially brings their attention to your page, right? And you've just made a post in their marketplace or about a listing in their area. So it's pretty interesting, right? Like if that person maybe knows a relative or a cousin or a friend that's looking to get into the area, they're not always actively looking on the MLS. Not everybody does, right? Not everybody's constantly on there, but they go to your profile and now they see that you've just posted a just listed house in their area. So what do? They look at the photos or the video of it. Maybe they share your post to their friend that they're thinking of that wants to move into the area, right? So this is just sort of trying to get really tight knit into the community, and you're doing it through, you're almost finding these people through obviously like the business engagement or the geotagging. So these are 4 50-minute or 2 50-minute increments that you would use. The next 2 is going to be with regards to story interaction and then feed engagement. So the story interaction is pretty interesting. If you go onto your Instagram, for example, what you're going to notice is you're going to see all these bubbles at the very top of your homepage. And you're going to look through the first like maybe 10 or 15, all very familiar faces. You've probably just seen their posts or you saw their stories yesterday. You very commonly see the first dozen or so very often. What you want to do is you actually want to spend 50 minutes. You want to go all the way back. So you go all the way to the right as far as you can until the bubbles aren't lit anymore. And essentially what will happen is the stories that you've watched, those people will get funneled to the back. But the people that still have a lit up funnel that are at the very back, they've completely fallen off your algorithm. So essentially what's happened with those people, you just posted that listing, but they're not going to see it on their feed, right? Their bubble's too small. You're way out of the way. But how you can kind of get back into their worlds is essentially going into their story, and Instagram lets you like their story. So you can physically just like it, or maybe they posted a thoughtful quote that meant something to them, right? So, if they posted a thoughtful quote, you could look at the quote. Maybe it means something to you. You could send them a direct message to say, hey, this is so amazing. Thanks for sharing. Now, this is going to bring your profiles and connect them again, right? You've sent them a direct message, or ultimately, if you just liked it, what's going to happen is it's going to go to the notification center, and odds are pretty good. They're going to say, oh, I haven't seen that person in a while. They're going to click your profile, and then it'll bring them into your page, onto your page where you've just posted, and then they go in and check it. You're just listed. So it's a good way to kind of bring your old followers or your new followers or your followers back into your world. And then again, same with the feed engagement. This is as simple as just kind of going into your feed. Again, 15 minutes, right? You don't want to be doom scrolling forever, but the important part is to have intention behind what you're doing. And now what I noticed, I don't know if this is the same for TikTok and Facebook, but for Instagram, if you click on the Instagram icon, it'll actually let you change your feed to your followers or your favorites. So what I do is I just change that to my followers, because sometimes you get a lot of like sponsored ads that come into your main feed, or people that you don't really even follow. It just happens that way. So if you click that, you bring it into your followers. What it does is it sorts everybody out who's just posted. So if you click it, you're going to see a post from 20 seconds ago from somebody that you follow that maybe fell off your algorithm too. You haven't seen them in a while. But the interesting thing here is all these people that have just posted are probably still on their phone. So you can go ahead and start liking and thoughtfully commenting. You're going to pop up. You're going to be one of the first likes on their photos, one of the first comments. Odds are pretty good. If they're still on their phone, they're going to click your profile, head over to your page. They're going to see you're just posted. They may like it too, but the whole point of all of this is to drive more traffic to your page and get essentially the platform to think that there's a lot of engagement happening here, which will help obviously drive out your post. But what I really liked about this whole theory is the fact that you can get really hyper local with the area that you're trying to target. And it's usually within your own marketplace. Like, the just listed video, for example, is a great example of that, because you want to essentially try to find people who are going to be in that area to see your post, who will eventually want to do business with you.
Love that. Go back real quick. Spence is making me think a little bit too, like with the business engagement, we've had a lot of clients, with YouTube channels to do a lot of business, highlight businesses, or like you do a lot of client events and you incorporate, the business highlights. I could see where, that business engagement would also help, but also help, like if you're doing something on YouTube or something else in that regard, right? I think would be extremely powerful, being able to stay connected. And to me, it's almost like we used to be so heavily involved with the chamber and in our local community with small business. And this is just another way to be heavily, involved and engaged with local businesses in your local market area.
Yeah, it's a great way to like, and again, you can share their profiles, like you can share their content as well. So this is obviously helpful. There's 1,000 different ways to do this, right? And I do like, I find having intention behind going on social media. So this is just sort of designed around like you just posted, but this is now something, since I realized the structure, that I do kind of now when I go on just to burn time or whatever that is. I want to look for something. I go in there, I do that. And then once I find myself back on my feed, I'm thoughtfully commenting or I'm liking photos and stuff like that. And again, like I said this earlier, where you're kind of just putting your stamp, right? Essentially what will happen is people that follow you, right, they're going to see your name come up onto the first few likers, right? So if nobody else that they follow has liked that photo, you're going to pop up there first, right? And that's essentially like a little free ad, right? Every time people are online and they just see, oh, you've liked another photo, right? It's kind of it's a cool way to make yourself remembered, I guess, right? Stay top.
And I think too, this also comes back to, we're talking about being intentional. It also comes back to who is your ideal client.
Mm-hmm.
And like, who is that ICP? Who is a motivated seller, motivated buyer, or another agent or a vendor, or, some type of an affiliate relationship that you're, would align and work well in your business. Then I think being intentional with, okay, well, where do those people hang out? Right. I think that also kind of comes into what social media platform is like, where do your people, where are they at? Where are they hanging out? Where are their eyeballs? And so like when you come back full circle, even here with this business engagement, it's like, okay, well, what do my people, what businesses do they like? Where are they at? And so I think instead of just randomly just liking local businesses because you want to support local businesses, it's supporting the local businesses and liking and commenting the local businesses of where your people would go hang out. I think is super important.
Yeah. And this goes back again to designing your, you can speak to your ideal client profile by posting what you relate to, right? Like there's a thought process behind, kind of swifting and sorting, right? And I think like if you can sort people before they connect with you based off of what you're posting, that's super important, right? Ultimately, like, we're not going to be a good fit for everybody, right? I always laugh at the agent that says I get every listing appointment, and it's like, maybe you're 10 for 10 right now, but like ultimately not everybody you met with wanted to work with you 100%, right? It's just impossible, right? Like we're all different fits for different people. And that's why there's so many different agents out there, and so many agents work well with others, right? It's just the way it is, right? So the fact that you can't hit them all makes it even more important that you might as well kind of post who you are and be authentic and attract that in. And it helps you too, right? Because there's nothing worse than trying to work with somebody that you just don't connect with, right? It's very hard to communicate with people that like you just can't get along with, right? Or you can't talk to, or they're talking over to you. It makes it really difficult. And I've had some of those, right? Like I'll circle back to right when I first got started, and a majority of my business came from, doing all of this. And it made me have to work with those types of people that I wasn't a good fit for. I mean, we got it done for sure. I can make it work, but ultimately it was stressful experience, right? It wasn't as enjoyable as it could have been.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's such a great point, right? Because people want to do business with people like them, right? And so, if you can find that connection, and that you're just going to, this is attraction, right? This is what we're talking about, right? We're, the chase versus attract, and everybody says, man, I want a very attractive business. Then you've got to give people value that attracts them to you, and being able to, make that connection. And you're not going to connect with everybody, nor should you try to. And, you're just looking for the people that are really looking for you.
So I found a cool quote that I saved on my phone the other day. It says, if you spend your time chasing butterflies, they will fly away. But if you spend your time making a beautiful garden, the butterflies will come. Don't chase, attract. Right.
Yeah,
so, I pulled that up. It's on my phone here, but I'll end up posting this at some point.
Yeah, no, it is so good. It is. And, it's, I always say it, right? We talk about sales and marketing all the time, and your better, sales are critical. However, if you're a world-class marketer, you can be an average salesperson. If you're not committed or obsessed with becoming the best marketer that you can be, then you're going to have to be world-class in sales. And so I just honestly believe that that's a harder business to go down than being obsessed with becoming a better marketer. And then, you can be average in sales and still achieve a lot of the goals that you want in your life.
So it's interesting that you brought that up. So this has been a way for me to obviously find more structure and leverage social media, make warmer connections with people that I'm connecting with online that are watching what we're doing, and then when they're ready, they're reaching out and we're working together, which has been awesome. But a byproduct of all of that is sort of what you just said. It's being able to sort of leverage your reach, right? So what I noticed is after being 90 days on market, we had 241 views, and then we had 449 views for realtor.ca here in Canada. But 90 days on our platform, we had over 66,000 accounts reached, and almost 200,000 impressions. So there's a lot to say around sort of what social media is being able to do in terms of exposure. So when you're sitting down at a listing appointment, and you're having that conversation of, what are you going to do for us that's going to differentiate yourself from another, agent in the community outside of just posting on the MLS, right? It's leveraging your own brand, leveraging your own social media platforms to help gain them more eyes on their specific property, which is, ultimately at the end of the day, what everybody wants, right? They want to try to get their home sold fast and for as much money as possible, right? So it's cool to be able to have that be the byproduct of ultimately having, connections that you're finding, at local connections through social media. I'll give you a good example, right? So I was, our brokerage is cloud-based, right? So I do majority of my work from home, but I also, go to coffee shops and stuff like that when I want to get out of the house and, work from my computer. And I was kind of plugged in, had the headphones on, and I actually had a Keys Plumbing shirt on. My brother's got a plumbing company, and I had that on. And I was just sitting there typing away. And, I took my headphones out for a break or whatever. And the lady sitting beside me, she said, "Hey, are you a plumber by chance?" And I said, "No, I'm not, my brother, but here, I'll send you his social media profile so you can send him a message." And, she pulls out her phone, and it turns out we were already following each other. Right. So again, at a local coffee shop, she follows them. However this happened, but we were already connected. We didn't even know it. Right. We didn't know each other, but we made that connection. We're already following, passed along his contact info, and we start chatting. And it turns out she, her mom's getting ready to make a move from the city, wants to come up closer to the kids and stuff like that. And Barrie, Toronto is about an hour away from Barrie, right? So, eventually there's going to be a time, right? We're connected now on social media. I've got her contact info, and there's going to be a time when they're going to be ready to make that move. And now it's a simple message, right? But the relationship has been built before we even knew it was there. Which
right. Yeah. And you look at the customer journey, right? And so think about this, and we talk, hook, story, offer, but when you look at the first part of the customer journey, it all starts with awareness. And then we're having engagement, and then we're making them an offer to subscribe to something. Right. And really, you hear I need this, I need a funnel for this. Well, listen, the whole objective of any of that is for somebody to give you their phone number. That's it. That is the sole intent and goal of a funnel, is to provide value to where somebody willingly gives you their phone number. Because what do we know? If we give our phone number, we know somebody's going to call us. And so, with social, you can cover all three of those. You can cover awareness, you can cover engagement, you can cover giving them an offer and giving them to subscribe to something. And, it's that first part of that customer journey, for traffic and offers before the conversion aspect of turning those opportunities into cash, or turning them into, a relationship, or turning it into a listing, or turning it into an agreement to come work together. Right. So whatever that is for whatever your business and your intent and your model and what you're trying to accomplish. But social media, because that's where all the eyeballs are. And, like with us prior to social, you had to, where were the eyeballs, right? It was traffic driving through, it was in the geographical area, it was actually in snail mail, it was actually listening to the radio, it was actually watching the news and seeing advertisements on the news. So, your marketing has to move to where the eyeballs are, and the eyeballs are on social. We just know where all of the attention is at, and that's where we have to be.
Yeah, day trading attention, right?
Day trading
Everybody's yeah, very much into obviously spending time on social media, whether they like it or not. You find yourself there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to where the eyeballs already are, and essentially, right, like having better intention with your time while you're on there too, especially if you're trying to operate a business through it, because it can be very challenging to do that, right? And I found that this structure, I see social media working for other agents, right? I've heard great stories. This is something now that we've implemented in our business, and it takes a while, right? Like, to be honest, the transaction period for somebody to just be ready to buy and sell real estate takes a while, but like to get to that point too, right? I've got, some people that I've been chatting with since the spring who are hoping to list in the fall, and they're still not ready yet, but they're working towards it, and they will soon. But it's just, it takes time, right? It takes time for all of this to evolve. So the consistency aspect is super important, right? You want to make sure that you're staying consistent, keep going if you don't see the results right away. And the other thing too is don't get hung up on like your views and your likes and stuff like that, right? Like if you have a post, I'll circle back to it again, right? Like your 5 million, view iced coffee video, right? That generated 0 leads for you. Sure, it makes you feel great, but ultimately, like, you hear stories of people that posted a video, and they got a couple hundred views, but they got 3 really motivated sellers that came out of it. Like, it's just, that's what you want. And again, that's going more, I guess, hyper local too, right? Into that marketplace. So,
yeah. And I think, like you said, it's such a great point, Spence, because, we want that instant gratification, that chemical hit.
Yeah. Dopamine hit.
But does that serve our business? Is that really, it's like, what's the size of your list? Well, we want a bigger list. However, it's not the size of the list. It's not the size of the followers. It's the amount of true engagement that's proactively engaging within that list, within that, that follower list. And I think that's why, you want to really measure, man, I keep coming back, man, hook, story, offer. And it's just a quote that's been resonating with me for about the last 30 days once I read it. And it was an old Ryan Dice quote. And he said, most people think they have a traffic problem when they really have an offer problem. And I think, utilizing social to get their attention, to get their eyeballs. And then from there, providing value, the deposits of value. And then it's okay to make a withdrawal, right? I'm going to provide some value, and I'm going to give you a call to action. I'm going to make you an offer, and you're either it's going to resonate with you or not, but I'm going to keep making those offers because I'm also making deposits. And so I think it's just a great reminder. And I think a lot of people too with social, they go in being a taker instead of going in being a giver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's again, I don't think you could give too much value, right? There's not too much that you can give online. And I mean, that's something too that I'm working on as well too, right? Like it's hard to put yourself out there for sure. Right. So again, this is sort of the year of discovery and putting more energy and effort into it. But already seeing results, which is amazing. So it's the motivation to keep going forward, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I think it's providing, what you want to start. That makes it easy, right? Like if you're, like you said, like if you're a runner or you enjoy motivational things that really move you, that you love seeing, it's okay to start there and be able to put that out. And, man, I think too, whatever's easy, however I can make this as easy as possible to build some momentum, to build off of it. And the other thing, and I love, this is Gary V's, kind of, component, right? And I think the first realization is that, this is kind of that agent to CEO mindset shift, is that, you need people, you need help. And, Gary's flow is, 10, 80, 10. And what that means is that, he has the vision, he has like what he wants. He knows the brand, he knows the look, the feel, and really kind of what he's going for within the film aspect of it. Right. And then the team does the next 80%. And then he takes the final 10% and finalizes it and posts and engages himself. So sometimes, we may struggle with that quite a bit, but knowing that you may need some help, um, is okay as well. And I think, unlocking the power of, the global workforce and understanding salary cap and being able to provide, team members that can kind of step in and help is okay as well. Um,
Dan Sullivan, Who Not How.
yeah. So it's a lot of the who, not how
Yeah.
aspect of things. But remember, no matter what, if you're CEO of your business, you're head of company, which means you're also head of marketing. Doesn't mean that you don't have somebody in that function that's taking on marketing, but you're responsible for the vision, you're responsible for the mission, you're responsible for the values, you're responsible for, the brand, the look, the feel, the standards. That's on you. And so I think, making sure your social media and your social media strategy is a direct reflection of who you are. And, like you said, man, if you love to have fun or you have that dark sense of humor, go with it. If you have a luxury look and feel, go with it. We talk a lot about, Georgia, she's an incredible storyteller. And so she just has an element of flow and story, and that comes across in all of her social. You have a look and a feel as well with all of your stuff, Spence, and telling stories and showcasing properties. Just like you said, you love getting caught up and checking out, beautiful, because you go back to your construction days, right? You just love look and feel of things being built.
Yeah.
You have a
Nice.
certain angle.
Yeah.
And so you love to share and you love to incorporate that into who you are. But that then comes back to, you're going to attract the type of people that love that as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's again circling back to being your authentic self and sifting and sorting as the people, they get to sift and sort you essentially, right? They choose whether they want to work with you or not, right? From that follow essentially. And then circling back to the who, not how concept. I see a lot more value in that now with regards to the business aspect too. Just like, you can only wear so many hats. And sure, you can do everything, but you can't do everything extremely well. And what it ultimately does is it wears you down to the point where you can't do what you are really good at exceptionally well anymore because you're just stretched too thin, right? And that stage of social media or coming up with the ideas and stuff like that, working together with somebody that can help you collaborate on ideas and stuff like that is huge too. Getting yourself to that stage, right? So I think that's sort of ultimately sort of the next stage or step for people with regards to building out their social medias, because it's not easy, man. Like it's a full-time gig for a lot of people that are really going after it. The ones that are doing exceptionally well, they're doing it a lot. It's a lot of energy and time.
Yeah, they are. And I think, you're like, well, do I need to go get a hire to help me with the marketing? If you're really good at it and you really love it, maybe you need to go get somebody to just get all the paperwork off of your plate. Maybe you need to, to just get those other things off so that you can redirect. And this is what we uncovered with Leanne, is like, we have somebody helping her with social media and with all of our marketing stuff, but it's like, she really loves doing it. So it's like, well, let's just make sure we have all the paperwork off your plate. Let's make sure we have all the organization. Let's make sure we have all the lead and getting your database organized and making sure that we have follow-up in place. So you can just do more of the social media stuff. She goes, I would love that. Right. And you get back into kind of, that productive quadrant, if you will, if you follow, Dan Martell's buy back your time. So you understand the who, not how concept, but then it's like, okay, well, how do I buy back my time? Well, knowing paperwork drains a creative person. If I can get the I's dotted and T's and process stuff off of a creative person, I have more time to be creative. And so it's just understanding, kind of who you are naturally and what your gift is and what just comes easy for you. And then being able to get all the things that are hard and draining off of your plate is definitely a great way, to think about, leveraging your time.
Yeah, you know what? That's all part of the journey, I guess, right? Is trying to self-discover all of this, right? And that's ultimately, it's been super exciting, coaching with you over the last little while, because you dive in deep to that sort of stuff and you kind of shed a little bit of light on the areas that you may not be focusing on because you're too distracted with everything else. So it's been an interesting journey, I'll say at least. Yeah.
Awesome. Brother, I appreciate you, stepping in here and really embodying, this whole expert mentor series and really just, the whole intent of just, individuals like yourself just coming and just giving and really embodying what we envisioned with Expert Mentors, 270 episodes ago. So I can't thank you enough, brother, for jumping in and sharing. And for you guys, make sure, tuning in, give Spencer lots of love. Make sure you connect and follow him. Instagram, his content, his videos, the look, the feel, the brand, the standard is definitely something worth paying attention to and emulating into your business as well.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having us.
All right, brother.
It's been
cool,
great.
man. We'll see you later.